Hey folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. This is Doug with News and Views by Doug. And if you're new to the channel, this is where I talk about my observations and opinions on world events, politics, and pretty much anything else I feel like talking about. And as usual, there's a lot to talk about. So the Persian Gulf War is back on. In the last 48 hours, the U.S. has had massive strikes on the infrastructure of Iran with 170 strikes in just the last 2 days. And they've hit bridges, and these bridges had rail lines on them. Well, Iran launched a lot of missiles and drones when the war first got going. And then, we assumed that they have to run out of missiles at some point. We hit their facilities that were building them. We hit the caves that they were hiding them in. And yet, they had 3 weeks to recover. And they're launching massive attacks right now against the U.S. and the Gulf states. So we hit bridges that had railroads on our railroad ties. I don't even know what to call them. Railroad tracks. And these tracks went into Europe, the middle part of Europe, into Russia, and then eventually into China. And this is how they've been resupplied. The Chinese and Russians have been working against us, as usual. And they have been resupplying them with missiles. So while we've hit Iran with over 170 attacks in the last 2 days, last night, Iran launched massive attacks against their Gulf state neighbors and others. They went after a U.S. base in Erbil, Iraq. They went after a U.S. base in Jordan. And while many of the missiles were shot down, there's been reports that some hit. And we don't know the damage yet. The U.S. also is reported to have hit a nuclear power plant, the one and only that Iran has that's working. And that was in the Bushehr province. And we don't know the damage. They haven't really announced much. But we've been sinking their boats. We've been hitting their port facilities, more of their launch sites, command and control sites. And Trump has basically said, hey, war's on. He's no longer listening. And there was even a report coming that Iran called him, said, hey, we really want to talk now. And Trump said, fuck you. You've had too many opportunities, and all you people do is lie. So, during this, 3-week truce, Iran was constantly attacking ships and others. So you can't trust them, and we need to finish the job. Also, the Kurds are invading through the Western Mountains and fighting the IRGC and killing the IRGC. And then there's been reports that Israel is going to start bombing again themselves. And, until the regime is gone, it's not going to stop. Now, today, the 9th, is the day that they're supposed to be loading the Ayatollah, the dead one, up on a helicopter and flying him to his final resting spot. And they still never saw his son, who was supposed to be in charge. He's supposed to be the new supreme leader. And he never showed up during the funeral. The perfect opportunity for him to show up would have been during the first funeral when all the foreign dignitaries were there, because there's no way the U.S. or Israel would have bombed him. But he didn't show up. We all think he's dead on the first day of the attacks. So, that's pretty much the Persian Gulf. Now we get into the U.S. We had a federal judge. Her name was Sparkle Sugnanan. She is of Ethiopian heritage, and she comes from the Caribbean islands of Trinidad and Tobago, where she holds citizenship. So she was brought to the United States as a teenager, somehow got citizenship, and eventually was appointed into a federal judgeship. Well, she ruled against the Trump administration in having the ICE people taking a look at Social Security numbers of people that were voting. And finally, we had a federal judge, and his name was T. Kent Wetherell, and he overruled her. He said that, first of all, there's an agreement between DHS and several states that when she ordered them to stop doing what they were doing, that she broke their agreement. And that one judge who made that agreement was in sole charge of making decisions on it. So he overruled her, and she's, her decision's over with. But, this brings up this whole thing about non-native citizens. The president of the United States has to be a native. Therefore, I'm assuming the vice president has to be native. But after that, I think non-natives can run for Senate, Congress, and all the other offices and become judges. Maybe we need to stop this. It should be enough for these people that they made it to the United States and they can be successful. If instead of becoming a judge, you're just an attorney. Instead of running for office, at least the higher up offices, you can run for lower offices. I mean, we had Arnold Schwarzenegger become the governor of California at one time. And he was mostly a rhino Republican, a Democrat. But isn't it time that we start, America first? Speaking of that, I don't trust the Republicans and I don't trust the Democrats. I consider myself to be conservative, more towards the moderate side. But I was thinking, let's start another political party. I mean, it's happened before. And let's call it the America First, party. And we'll stand for the Constitution. We'll stand for, America First. And Native Americans. And I'm not talking about the indigenous Indians. They're native. But the people that are born here. And I don't care what color you are, what sex you are. If you're born here, you're the people who can run this country. So that's just my opinion on that. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom here in California, he's in trouble. Word's beginning to leak out now that, he had a mole in his inner circle and that she was having a wire since June of 2024. And it was President Biden's DOJ that got her. Now, we all know his chief of staff was stealing money from another Democrat and using it for her own private interests. So she was caught. She pled out, but she didn't get the maximum sentence because she probably pled a deal with the DOJ to go against Newsom. Well, this other woman agreed to wear a wire, and word's beginning to leak out that there definitely was a pay for play. And I've shown you, or I did videos on everything involved. And Newsom's wife is involved, along with probably other Democrats. And it was definitely a pay to play type thing where you give your money to Newsom and he makes decisions in your favor. You give money to his wife, her nonprofit organizations. And Newsom and the state would make sure that everything went that person who donated the money went their way. So Newsom's in trouble, and I think we're going to get a lot more coming out soon. Mitch McConnell, we did the video again on him yesterday. Hasn't been seen in almost a month. There's reports that, after his heart attack, he was brain dead. His internal organs are failing. No one's seen or heard from him. And it's just weird. So the reports came out that he's brain dead, but several senior Republican senators have came out and said, oh, no. We've spoken with him over the phone. And they all averaged about a 20-minute conversation and they had in-depth conversations with this man. That his brain's there. He's okay. He's making it. I think we're being lied to. And there's a really good reason for it. And like I said, I've been a lifetime Republican, but don't trust any of them. There's a Kentucky law that was passed that basically said that if a senator needs to be replaced, McConnell, if it happens before an August deadline, then a special election has to be held. If it happens after that August deadline, then there is no replacement. There's an election, but no replacement until January of 2027. And I think these rhino Republicans don't want another senator in there because they'll lose their thing on the Save America Act. The governor of Kentucky, he's flat out come out and said, hey, I'm your boss. I'm the governor of Kentucky. And we need to know if you're alive. So he's demanded a proof of life. And that was yesterday. Well, it's been 24 hours since, and no proof of life has been supplied. McConnell's aides are hiding the truth. Several Republicans are hiding the truth. And President Trump was even asked, have you spoken to Senator McConnell? His answer was, no, haven't heard anything. So if that's to be believed, they're even keeping Trump in the dark. I think as President of the United States or the governor of Kentucky, you should be able to walk into that hospital and walk into his room. See for yourself. Is Mitch McConnell alive? Also, his wife took off to China, communist China, and had a meeting with their vice president. As far as I know, she hasn't come back. Here's her husband laying in bed, supposedly not doing well, maybe dead. And she's off in China having a good time. So there is some good news. The Nazi, adulterer, sexual predator, Graham Plattner, accusations of a rape came out, and all the Democrats scurried like cockroaches when the kitchen lights came on. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, AOC, I'm still a barista. They all fled the scene saying, hey, Graham, you need to pull out of the race. You need to do it soon. So basically he was given till next Monday to make the decision to pull out or not so they could get someone else in the race. Well, guess what, folks? Good news. The Nazi quit today. He's out of the race. But I mean, my God, people of Maine, what are you thinking bringing a Nazi in? And when I say Nazi, I'm not talking about a fake Nazi. They always call the right-wingers Nazis and fascists because they have no clue what they're talking about, and they being the left and the communists and the socialists. But Graham Plattner, he had a tattoo, big one, right there. And it was a death head used by the SS troops during the Second World War. And he wore it proudly for years. Then when it was brought out that he's got a Nazi tattoo, he goes, oh, I didn't know what that meant. He had gotten it when he was in the United States Marine Corps. Said all the Marines had them. I spent several years in the Marine Corps in the infantry because he kept saying it was infantry, dark humor. Oh, I saw tattoos. Never saw any Nazi symbolism. Never saw any white supremacism. Didn't see any black supremacism. Most of the time it was an American flag with the USMC tattooed somewhere on there, or the guy's mom's name. So his excuse of he didn't know what it was. So he got covered up once he decided to run for office. And the guy's an accused sexual predator. He's an accused rapist. And, we talked about him the last couple of times, including the video from yesterday. So there's just so much going on. Hey, who wants to join me in forming the new political party? The American First Party. Let's do it. Got nothing else better to do. Okay, folks. So, as I say it every time. If you see something, say something. There's a lot of terrorist groups out there, a lot of bad people, and they want to hurt us. Take care of yourself, your family, and friends. Be aware of your surroundings. If you go to a mall, if you go to a game, a concert, a church, keep your eyes open. Wherever there's large groups of people, that's where the bad things will happen. So I'm going to leave you with a quote. So today's quote comes from none other than Nelson Mandela. And the quote is, "It always seems impossible until it's done." So I hope you like these videos. I hope you'll like and subscribe. Help the channel grow. I try to do these observations and opinions on a daily basis. Try to keep you updated. And just want you to stay safe, folks. So, as I'm always telling you at the end of the videos, God bless you and God bless the United States of America. You take care of yourselves. Bye.